What movie is this?
This is from the 2019 film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, directed by Quentin Tarantino.
Give me directions to this coffee place.
Getting directions to Cali Coffee.
What was Mike Hurley's drink order the other night?
Mike Hurley asked for a beer, specifically an IPA if they had it.
Where am I meeting for lunch?
You have lunch with Ken from 12 p.m.
Alright, I've been playing with Siri AI for the last 3 days and it has blown my mind a number of times. So I want to show you even more use cases, things I didn't know Siri AI was going to be able to do. Yes, it's replaced some shortcuts I've built in the past, which is great. And then in chapter 2, I'm going to share details about how Siri AI is working. It is not Gemini behind the scenes, it's actually more complex than that, so we'll dive into those specifics. And then in chapter 3, I want to show you the Siri app on the Mac, because it can also do some incredibly powerful things with your files, a contextual menu where Siri is always available, and a ton more. First, let's talk about personal context. This was the promise 2 years ago and Apple has fully delivered. When you first install iOS 27 and get access to Siri AI, it's going to index, namely look at all the data on your device locally, not putting it to the cloud, and then it's going to be able to answer questions on that. Now, I had a lot of vague requests that Siri AI nailed every time. For instance, I asked what was Mike's drink order the other night. I wasn't specific about the night, I didn't tell it what Mike I was talking about, even though there's lots of Mikes in my contacts, and sure enough it got the answer right and a link back to the group text where it found that answer. And we're going to get to some of that sources and citing when we talk about how it works. I was also meeting someone for lunch today, and I forgot where I was supposed to meet, so I just asked Siri AI. And this time it came from an email and calendar event, and it pulled from the email where I was supposed to meet them at Apple Visitor Center. Now I'm going to show you how multiple sources combine when we get to on-screen and personal context together, but one more specific on personal context, I asked it what were some recent podcasts recommended to me by friends. What are some podcasts people recommended to me?
I found a couple of podcast recommendations in your messages. Jacob Baranowski mentioned wanting to listen to the Waveform podcast and
it pulled up 2 text messages mentioning 2 different podcasts, Waveform and the Vergecast, and then I was able to make a follow-up request, which was, why don't you play the one that Pablo suggested? I didn't have to say the name of the podcast or the episode title, I just said, play the one Pablo suggested, it knew what to do, and it started playing an Apple Podcast automatically. This is the personal context in Siri we've been waiting for, and it works incredibly well. Now combine that with on-screen awareness and things get really wild. I actually built a shortcut last year that allowed me to take a screenshot of something like a social media post, try to identify the location of the business, and get directions. Well now, Siri AI can do that automatically, and it nailed it. This is an Instagram story I screenshotted. The name of the business is not in the image, but there is a number and a logo for a coffee place. I asked it to get directions to this coffee place, and mind you, I'm asking it this while I'm in California, so it doesn't even have current location access for context, and it still found the coffee shop and immediately opened directions. It would take me a minute to drive there from here, but it had no trouble identifying it. In the same way, I had made a shortcut that when you take a screenshot, it would send it to Apple Intelligence and try to identify the artist and song to play in Apple Music. Well, now you can just ask Siri to do it. What was interesting here is I was watching an Instagram reel, and when I invoked Siri by holding the side button, it took whatever was on screen the moment I pressed the button into my request. And all I asked it was, play this in Apple Music, and sure enough, it played the exact song title from the right artist. And this on-screen awareness and context can also play into the world knowledge that Apple has. We'll get into the details in a moment. And other shortcuts I made, like to identify movies and TV shows, Siri AI can just do it. So I had an image right here of a movie, maybe I don't know what it was, well I can just ask Siri, what movie is this? And it will tell me what the movie is, and I can even expand it and get a link to Apple TV. This is way more than just trying to find that specific text message or email. While it can do all of that, it's capable of so much more. And finally, visual intelligence is now built into the camera. So when you invoke the camera, either with the camera controller from the lock screen, there's photo, video, and then the Siri button right in the middle. Then you can simply ask, what am I looking at? I was there at the visitor center, it immediately knew I was at Cafe Max, and then I could ask a follow-up, what do people recommend getting here? And then it pulled from that world knowledge to give me an answer about where I am in the context and a recommendation. Great nitro cold brew there, by the way. And Siri also excels at just overall world knowledge. I'll explain more in a moment, but this is not Gemini nor pulling from Google search. Apple has its own world knowledge database that it's been building for years, so when you ask these general purpose questions, it's going to pull from their world knowledge. So when I ask it for movie quotes about artificial intelligence, which we use in the intro to Primary Tech, it just gives me a bunch of great quotes, and I can ask follow-up questions, ask about a movie, and more. And if you've used AI apps in the past like Gemini, Claude, or ChatGPT, you know sometimes requests can take a while depending on how much it's thinking. And even though it's indexed a ton of information on my device, it's reaching out to world knowledge using private cloud compute, I find the Siri AI to be pretty fast. Speaking of indexing, it's actually the third day I have it on my phone, and this iPhone Air is still indexing, and it will have even more context, I guess, when it's done eventually. And one of the features that are reserved just for the newest devices is this expressive voices preview. And here you can adjust the tone and even the speed of the response, which is really nice. A lot of their AI apps, you can't really tell it to just talk faster. So if Siri AI is not just Gemini underneath, what is it? Well, after the main keynote at WWDC, some of us were able to go to another theater where Craig Federighi explained in detail what they've been doing for the last 2 years, and specifically what they did in their partnership with Google. There's 3 main tentpoles to that partnership with Gemini. 1, Gemini was used to refine Apple's foundation models. You might have heard the word distilling, where one model will use another to improve itself. And while Apple never said the word distilling, it sounds like that's kind of what happened. Specifically, there was refinement to Apple's custom models, Apple Foundation's Model Core, Core Advanced, Cloud, and Cloud Image. So it is not just Gemini under the hood, it is still Apple's foundation models. Number 2, there was a hardware infrastructure extension through this partnership, namely Apple needed more compute power for private cloud compute, and Apple partnered with Google and NVIDIA to extend that private cloud compute infrastructure to NVIDIA GPUs hosted within Google Cloud. So there was the refining of Apple models with Gemini, the actual hardware and infrastructure expansion. And number 3, Apple wanted to make sure that Siri AI had top-tier performance on par with Gemini, and that's what they've been working on with their foundation models. And the big difference in benefit here is when you use Siri AI, it is not reaching to the cloud immediately. During this talk with Craig Federighi, he explained at length that typical AI apps like ChatGPT and Claude on your iPhone, the moment you make a request, everything gets sent to the cloud, everything gets processed there, and then sent back to your device. The way Siri AI works is when you make a request, it's going to look at an orchestrator on your iPhone or Apple device. It's also going to look at on-device apps and information there, on-screen context, and that huge spotlight index that's still going on my iPhone. And there's also on-device models that it will look at first, and it will send the minimum amount of data to the cloud as necessary to complete your requests. And if it does send that data, it's going to Apple's private cloud compute or look at Apple's own world knowledge base. Now, some tasks are going to require that private cloud compute no matter what. Even things like looking at your messages will require some speaking to private cloud compute. And unlike other AI apps and tools, there's not necessarily a memory. Now, I'm going to show you the Siri app on the Mac and how you have your whole conversation history, which is also true of the Siri app on your iPhone and iPad. I really like that they did a Siri app with your conversation history. But when it comes to memory, that conversation history will speak to the spotlight index that Siri AI will refer to, but it's not memory in the same way. And I don't know if you've experienced this, but sometimes I'll ask Gemini a question, and it'll say, well, as a YouTube creator with a Sony a7 IV, kind of proving that it knows a lot about me. And those pieces of data, like what camera I use and what my profession is now in the memory of Gemini or Claude or whatever AI app I use. And honestly, sometimes it can feel a little creepy because it's kind of throwing facts in there that seem unrelated. But Siri AI will use the past conversations as an index, but it is not the same as memory. And one other side note, other AI apps, they're kind of known to be either sycophantic, arrogant, or verbose, and it really feels like Siri AI, when you make a request, it's just a professional personal assistant. It's to the point, it's not curt, but it uses brevity, and honestly, I really appreciate it. I've been using it more and more, especially on my Mac, because the Siri app is now just there. It's also available in the contextual menus that I'll show you, and I think a lot of people will appreciate how it responds. Also, during that tech talk, Mike Rockwell, who is now over that Siri AI team, he had several on-stage demos, but using that on-screen context and making an Apple Note, pulling information from an email, all the demos worked and they were all impressive. And now finally, let's go to the Siri AI app on the Mac because there's even more powerful tools there. So here on the Mac, this is the Siri app. Now you can have conversation view in this list view, or you can go to grid view, and you can also pin conversations to the top. Now, one of the things I did in this pinned conversation was transcribe that tech talk with Craig Federighi. I asked it to summarize the whole presentation. I sent it that text document, and it gave a great answer and even created this full table comparing both Siri AI and Google Gemini, those bullet points at the bottom. And of course, I can ask follow-up questions to that as well. But using the Siri app, you can send it photos and files. So one of the things I tried was giving it one of the manuals I save as a PDF. So here's a manual for my home theater receiver. I can give that to the Siri AI app and then ask a question. I'll ask it what sound formats are available, use this manual as a reference. It's going to work on it for a second. And that was pretty quick. As you can see, based on the manual, it talks about Dolby Atmos, DTS. Here's all the supported surround sound formats. And just like that, I have my answer. You can also ask Siri about one or multiple documents from the contextual menu. So here in Finder, I'm going to two-finger click the manual to my old Kia Soul 2011, and you'll see the Ask Siri is right here at the top. Maybe something like how to pair a Bluetooth phone. And it will open the Siri window that I can move around, but this conversation will also be saved in the Siri AI app. And it's walking me through the steps on how to pair a Bluetooth phone there to the 2011, and will also let me know what other sources it might have pulled from here at the bottom. You can even ask the contextual menu what to do with an entire folder. So I'm going to two-finger click on this year's episodes of Primary Technology, and I'll ask Siri, what episode did we talk about the Google I/O conference? So I'll send that request. It's going to look through this folder. Now, I didn't give it context of this is my podcast or look at the transcript files in these folders, but that quickly it said, based on your files, Google I/O was discussed on episode 131. It also mentions a message from Jason on May 20th, listening to the most recent episode where Google I/O was covered, which aligns with the timeline of the event in mid-May. That's wild. And then you can click on Calendar, Mail, and Messages and go to that source that Siri was referencing. I'll also show you this conversation. I was looking for quotes about personal assistants, again, for primary tech, and it gave me some Devil Wear Prada's ideas, a bunch of quotes. But I said, give me famous quotes Alfred said in the Batman movies, recent movies ideally. And you can see it went through, gave me a bunch of quotes from The Dark Knight Rises, even Justice League. Then I asked for some lighthearted quotes from Alfred, and it gave me even more, and then one that I used for the intro of that episode. Now, yes, this is possible with ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini, but the fact that Siri is doing this and can pull from your personal context, Apple's world knowledge, and the files on your Mac, like Claude Cowork, gets really powerful. You can also invoke Siri through a keyboard shortcut, namely Shift-Command-Space. So Command-Space is now Spotlight and Siri all in one, which, a side note, you can still access your clipboard history by going to Command-Space-4. That'll be your clipboard. You could do Command-Space-3 and then go for your shortcuts and actions, or Command-Space-2 to search for files and apps. So it's all still there, just has a different look and combines Siri with Spotlight. I found it pretty good. Like if I want to launch an app like Transcriptionist, it's going to go to that app pretty quickly, plus show me the files. And one of my tricks for Spotlight that I shared in a past video, which I'll link above, is start typing the name of an app, hit Tab, and then type the name of the file you want to find. So Command-Space Pixel for Pixelmator, and then I can do something like PTS Thumb, and it pulls up that file very quickly. But the other keyboard shortcut you can use is Shift-Command-Space, which will then invoke Siri AI on whatever window is active. So here's actually a video in my Photos app. I'm going to do Shift-Command-Space. You'll see it now focused on the active window, and I can ask Siri, do an image search, or add to calendar because there is a date in view. Let's ask Siri, where can I buy iPhone accessory? I'll tap return. It's sending what was on screen through that Shift-Command-Space like a screenshot. And it says this accessory is the image of the MAF Snap-on phone stand and wallet. And again, I have all the links to the references right here from Moft and Amazon, even Best Buy and Verizon. And now you can have that on-screen awareness, visual intelligence search right here on your Mac from a keyboard shortcut, Shift-Command-Space. Overall, I've been really impressed with Siri AI, both on my iPhone and on my Mac. I'm going to just keep the app open or use that on-screen keyboard shortcut. I even did some of my tasks like giving it a YouTube video transcript, one of mine, and then asking it for title and description ideas. I still have a custom GPT that I like the responses it gives me so far, but I'm going to keep doing side-by-side tests over the summer, and maybe I'll start liking the responses that Siri gives me instead. But get subscribed and hit that like button. I'm going to be covering all the changes throughout the summer. And if you want to see all the changes in shortcuts and how to create shortcuts just using natural language with the new Describe shortcut feature, I'd appreciate if you join my shortcuts community. I'll put a QR code right over here. You can actually join 50% off. That deal is still going on just for a couple more days, but you get 50% off. So it's $5 a month or $50 a year. And I do weekly live streams just for members, a new shortcut of the week every week. You can access my entire shortcuts database and a ton more. You can also join the community just for free. And there's a ton of great people sharing shortcuts they've built. You can ask for shortcuts help, and there's lots of helpful people there in the community as well. And I'm in there trying to answer as many requests as possible. And I think during the betas, with all the new shortcuts actions like storage, if-else actions, and new automations, even from third-party apps, I'm really excited what we're going to build this summer and going forward. Also, get subscribed to the channel, hit that like button if you haven't. Let me know your shortcuts requests down in the comments. Questions about Siri AI, I'd love to help you there. And thank you for watching. I'll catch you next time.